Welcome to the deep dive. Have you ever walked into a bookstore, locked eyes with a book from across the room, and just picked it up without even knowing what it's about?
Oh, definitely. I think we're all guilty of that at some point.
Yeah, you are definitely not alone in that. We all do it. And today we are going to look at the secret visual language that makes that exact moment happen.
Right, because it's an entirely visual deep dive today. We are stepping away from the text itself and focusing strictly on the visual packaging.
Exactly. We're taking a stack of design research, color theory, and placing one singular artifact right under the microscope.
It's such a powerful tool for communication, and often we don't even realize it's happening.
So true. Our mission today is a complete dissection of a single, highly specific piece of design. We are looking at one image, a modern book cover for Herman Melville's classic Moby Dick.
Which is a brilliant example to use for this.
We want to break down how the color, the typography, and the illustration on a simple piece of cardboard can communicate mood, themes, and just completely shape your expectations before you even read word one.
Because book covers are essentially visual summaries. They prep the reader's brain.
Okay, let's unpack this. Right off the bat, the absolute very first thing that hits you is the background color.
Yes, it is impossible to miss.
The entire book, the front cover, the spine, the back, is saturated in this incredibly striking, deep navy blue.
And that deep navy is serving as a very deliberate foundation, like we said, visual summaries.
Yeah.
That deep blue isn't just a background, it is the atmosphere itself.
It really is. It immediately plunges you into this specific psychological space.
Exactly. It tells you immediately that this isn't a light, breezy read. That color is heavy, it's expansive, and it sets a stage of profound isolation.
Which is a very fitting primer for our maritime narrative, right?
Perfectly fitting.
But let me play devil's advocate for a second here. Isn't the ocean just, blue? Are we sure this isn't simply the most obvious default color choice for a book about a giant sea creature?
Well, I mean, if you're designing a book about water, yes, you use blue. It is the obvious choice in that regard.
Right.
But the shade of blue is where the design psychology really comes in. Think about a bright cyan or a turquoise.
Oh, sure. That completely changes the vibe.
Exactly. Those lighter shades communicate tropical waters, adventure, maybe a swashbuckling pirate tale, or a fun summer beach romance.
Fetch Moby Dick is definitely not.
Far from it. This specific navy is so dark it actually borders on black. And in color theory, shades this deep evoke feelings of pressure, the unknown, and a distinct lack of light.
Like the midnight zone of the ocean, thousands of fathoms down.
Precisely. It signals to your brain that the story contained inside is going to deal with very heavy, crushing themes.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when you compare it to older, traditional covers of Moby Dick.
Oh, the contrast is stark.
Yeah, if you look at editions from 50 or 60 years ago, they're usually these chaotic oil paintings. You see a ship getting smashed to splinters, sailors falling into the water, harpoons flying everywhere.
Very literal interpretations of the action.
Exactly. But this cover completely strips all of that away. It leaves you with just this vast, heavy, empty blue space.
And it forces you to focus on what remains.
Which brings us to the typography, floating right there in that empty space. The words M-O-B-Y and D-I-C are stacked on top of each other, and they are massive.
Unapologetically huge.
They really are. This title is written in a stark, white, classic serif font, and it just dominates the entire upper half of the cover.
What's fascinating here is the concept of visual weight.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
When a designer chooses to use stark white text against a deep, dark navy background, they are demanding immediate attention. That high contrast gives the title a sense of undeniable gravity and importance.
You mentioned visual weight. For those of us who aren't graphic designers, what does that actually mean in practice?
It's a great question.
Is it just about the sheer size of the font taking up physical space? Or is the stark white color doing the heavy lifting there?
It really is a combination of both.
Yeah.
But the font style itself plays a massive role. You mentioned it's a serif font.
Right.
Serifs are those little structural flags and feet on the ends of the letters. Think of the classic Times New Roman typeface.
Got it. The little extra strokes.
Yes. Historically, serif fonts were carved into stone monuments. By using a massive, white, bold serif font on this cover, the designer is mimicking that monumental architecture.
Oh, wow. I hadn't thought of it like that.
The text doesn't look like it was printed on a press. It looks like it was carved. It has structural mass. It looms over the rest of the canvas.
Looming is such a great way to describe it because when you compare that massive architectural title to the author's name, The contrast is almost shocking.
It is entirely intentional.
Herman Melville is positioned at the very bottom center of the front cover, and it's written in a much smaller, incredibly simple font.
A sans serif font.
Well, right, meaning it lacks those little structural feet, or at least it's a very highly simplified modern font. It's also white, but because of the tiny size and the thinness of the letters, it feels incredibly quiet compared to the title.
The designer is explicitly defining a hierarchy here.
Telling you what matters most.
Exactly. They are telling you, the potential reader, what is most important before you even pick the book up. The subject of the book, the whale, the mythic legend of Moby Dick, is prioritized over the creator of the book.
Melville is basically acting as the foundation.
Literally holding up the bottom of the cover while the
Right.
title gets to be the towering monolith. It tells you that the story has completely eclipsed the man who wrote it.
I have a confession to make that feels relevant here.
Oh, let's hear it.
I bought a book last week entirely because the spine looked aesthetically pleasing on my shelf. I haven't read a single page of it.
That happens more often than people want to admit.
It sounds shallow, I know, but looking at how deliberately this hierarchy is crafted makes me feel a bit better about being manipulated by good design.
Good design is meant to manipulate your eye.
And what's interesting is how this cover's exact hierarchy is mirrored on the spine.
Yes, the spine is just as critical as the front cover.
The title MOBIDECA is written vertically, reading down the spine in a very large font, taking up most of the vertical real estate.
Right.
And then sitting right at the very bottom of the spine, oriented horizontally, so you'd actually have to tilt your head to read the title, but look straight on for the author, is Herman Melville.
That spine layout is a masterclass in bookstore marketing.
How so?
Well, if you imagine this book sitting on a shelf, surrounded by dozens of other maritime classics, that spine is engineered to catch your eye from across the room.
Ah, right, because usually you only see the spine anyway.
Exactly. The massive descending white letters against the dark navy ensure that even when the front cover is hidden away, the gravity of the title still commands your attention. The horizontal author name at the base simply anchors the design, giving it visual stability.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We have this looming typography taking up the top half, and the foundational text at the bottom. But right in the middle, splitting the difference, we have this atmospheric imagery.
The focal point of the artwork.
Let's look at the center of the cover. We have a night sky scene. There is a very crisp, sharp white crescent moon hanging right below the word D-I-C-K.
Yes.
And scattered delicately around that crescent moon are exactly 5 small, stylized stars.
The precision of those 5 stars is really worth noting. They aren't random splatters of white paint meant to look like a realistic galaxy.
They don't look like a photograph at all.
No, they are deliberate, geometric, artistic renderings. Combined with that sharp crescent moon, it creates a feeling of pristine, almost fragile stillness.
It's very calm.
It's a very quiet, serene night sky that introduces a touch of mythic quality. It feels less like a documentary and more like a fable.
And just below that fable-like moon and stars, we get the ocean's surface. But again, it is not a highly detailed, realistic painting of the sea.
Far from realistic.
It is an incredibly minimal, stylized white line that sketches out jagged ocean waves. There are a few little splashes drawn in, just these tiny white dots of spray, but it is remarkably stark.
That minimal white line is doing a tremendous amount of heavy lifting.
Just separating the two spaces.
Exactly. It acts as the definitive, razor-thin border between two massive unknowns, the endless expanse of the night sky above, and the unfathomable depths of the ocean below.
That's a great way to put it. 2 different kinds of infinity.
By keeping the representation of the water so simple, the designer prevents the cover from becoming visually cluttered. It maintains that heavy, atmospheric navy blue while still communicating the setting perfectly.
Right, it doesn't distract from the overall mood.
And that line itself, with those jagged little waves, introduces just a hint of turbulence into an otherwise completely calm scene.
Well, that turbulence completely takes over when we look at the central figure, the whale itself.
The main event.
It is positioned right below the waves, taking up the center of the deep water. But what stands out to me is that the main body of the whale is entirely blue.
Yes, it blends right in.
It's a shade of blue that is so close to the background navy, just barely lighter, so it almost camouflages. But its underbelly is highly detailed, stark white, and covered in deep ridges.
That underbelly is a brilliant textural contrast. Think about it. Everything we've seen so far, the background, the typography, the moon is smooth.
Yeah, very clean lines.
But those ridges on the whale's belly, introduce a tactile, almost biological reality to the image. It grounds the stylized elements. It reminds the viewer that there's a living, breathing, muscular animal in this fable.
Could the designer have just made the entire whale blue to save it from distracting from the massive title? I mean, why highlight the underbelly so intensely?
Visualizing the underbelly in stark white pulls the viewer's eye downward straight from the surface.
Oh, that makes sense.
Keeping the main body of the whale blue, allowing it to camouflage into the deep water around it, visually suggests how much of this creature actually belongs to the unseen depths.
It's part of the darkness.
Exactly. It emerges from the dark, but it is fundamentally a part of it. The white ridges give it dimension and physical weight that a flat blue silhouette would completely lack.
And that physical weight is so obvious when you look at the kinetic energy of the illustration. The whale is positioned at this incredibly dynamic angle.
It's not just floating there.
No, it's curved, with its massive head pointing downward and its tail raised high up towards the surface line. It's captured in this ambiguous moment of motion.
Suspended animation.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it gracefully diving deep down into the crushing depths to escape something? Or is it building momentum to suddenly breach upwards and smash through that calm surface line? You can't quite tell, but the power is palpable.
And that ambiguity is exactly where the psychological tension of the entire cover lies.
The tension between the calm and the chaos. Let's synthesize all these elements. We have the crisp, quiet, tranquil nighttime setting with the crescent moon and the delicate stars. It feels peaceful.
Very serene.
But right below that thin white line of the ocean's surface is this massive, powerful creature locked in a moment of intense dynamic motion. It forces us to ask, does this serene backdrop mask a chaotic story beneath the surface?
So the cover is essentially warning you. It's saying the calm you see on the surface of the water is a total illusion.
Precisely. It builds an expectation of unseen danger. The reader subconsciously understands that the stillness of the sky is temporary, and the massive force lurking in the dark blue is the true focus of the narrative.
I find it fascinating how much narrative tension can be built without showing a single ship, a single harpoon, or a single drop of blood.
It's the power of suggestion.
Okay, there is one more major element on this cover that we absolutely have to dissect because it breaks the pattern of the entire design in a really specific way.
The branding.
Yes. Let's look at the bottom right corner of the front cover. Cutting right across that deep navy blue is a diagonal triangle design in a much lighter, almost powdery blue.
It's a very distinct shift.
It acts like a little banner or a ribbon stretched across the corner. And sitting inside that lighter blue triangle are the details of the publisher.
That light blue triangle is a disruption. Everything else on the cover, the text, the moon, the waves, the whale's belly, is stark white against the dark navy.
So why introduce a third color?
By introducing this lighter, powdery blue, the designer is deliberately pulling your eye to that bottom corner. It is a branding mechanism. Publishers need to ensure their identity isn't entirely lost in the depths of the ocean scene the artist created.
My eye definitely goes straight to the words written there in white. Timeless Books. That's the name of the publisher.
It's a very bold name.
But what is genuinely intriguing is the logo sitting just above the publisher's name inside that triangle. It's an icon of an hourglass. And if you glance over at the spine, that exact same hourglass icon appears at the very top, sitting proudly above the massive Moby Dick title.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the philosophical weight of this specific branding choice is absolutely fascinating.
I knew you were going to like this part.
Just think about the juxtaposition of those two elements side by side. On one hand, you have the publisher's name, Timeless.
Right.
That word implies something eternal. It implies something infinite, a piece of art or literature that completely transcends the boundaries of eras and epochs. It suggests an enduring permanence.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second here again. Is it possible we are overthinking this?
It's a fair question to ask.
Could the publisher have just chosen an hourglass because it looks vaguely vintage and cool, or because it's a standard literary symbol rather than it being some deliberate philosophical statement?
It is always possible that a design choice is purely aesthetic. However, in high-level publishing, logos are rarely chosen without deep consideration.
True. They pay a lot of money for those designs.
Exactly. A colophon, which is the technical term for a publisher's logo, is their core identity. When a company names itself Timeless, they are making a promise about the quality of their catalog.
Saying these books will last forever.
Yes, but pairing it directly with an hourglass creates a profound friction. An hourglass is a tool specifically and entirely designed to measure a finite, limited amount of passing time.
It's a countdown.
It is the literal visual representation of time running out. You watch the sand fall, and you know the end is approaching.
That is a massive contradiction. They are called timeless, but their visual symbol is the ultimate reminder that time is strictly limited. It's a built-in paradox right there in the corner of the book.
This raises an important question about the nature of reading itself. Placing this paradox on a book about a creature of the deep and a story of obsession only amplifies the friction.
Oh, that's interesting.
Are these books considered timeless because they endure while our own personal sands run out? Or is it a subtle nod to the fact that reading a massive, dense classic like Moby Dick is an act of spending our very finite, limited time on something we hope holds eternal value?
Wow.
The design forces your brain to hold two completely contradictory ideas: the infinite nature of art and the finite nature of human time, in your mind at the exact same moment you are looking at the cover.
Stepping back from all these individual elements, the massive stone-carved typography, that quiet ocean line, the textured whale, and that tiny paradoxical hourglass, it really changes how you look at the whole package.
It's so much more than a cover.
It's not just a protective layer of cardboard to keep the pages from getting bent. It's an entire psychological landscape.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's unpack this. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Why spend this much time analyzing a single image of a whale and some text?
Because it applies to everything you read.
Exactly, because the goal is for you to look at your own bookshelves differently today. The next time you pick up a book, or even browse an online catalog, pause before you read the summary.
Just take a moment to look at it.
Notice how a specific shade of heavy navy blue makes you feel compared to a bright yellow or a stark red. Notice how the placement of an author's name subtly manipulates your expectations of the story inside.
Does the font feel monumental and ancient, or is it sleek and modern?
Right. What mood is the cover injecting into your brain before the author even begins speaking? Graphic design is a language, and once you learn the vocabulary, you start reading it everywhere.
And as you reflect on the visual languages surrounding you, I will leave you with this final thread to pull.
Go for it.
We discussed the paradox of the publisher's hourglass, that constant falling sand reminder that time is always running out. Yet, look at the art on this cover one last time.
The whale.
It freezes a massive, powerful creature in a single, perfectly suspended split second of motion beneath the stars. That whale will never finish its dive. Those jagged waves will never actually crash.
It's completely still.
If the hourglass reminds us of our own mortality and our limited hours, perhaps the true, enduring power of a so-called timeless book isn't just that the story lasts forever on a shelf.
What is it then?
Perhaps its real power is that it has the unique ability to completely freeze time for the reader, holding you in a perfect suspended moment of discovery the very second you look at it.